Hey guys, welcome to Nifty World. I'm Bex, and in today's video we're talking all about esports and NFTs. That's right, they're coming together. So I'm going to be interviewing an esports expert, and we're going to be talking all about the changing behavior of gamers, how that is spurring on the world of NFTs, and what it means to have a secondary market in the world of gaming. So yeah, it's a big, exciting future. So why don't you stick with us? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and leave me a comment if you've got any questions. But for now, let's dive right in. Right, joining me now is Warren Lincoln, who is an esports expert, and he also works for EEG, which is Esports Entertainment Group. And this is really exciting because I know you and I have had a little bit of a background together in esports. We've both seen the light of NFTs, and now that combination is going to be really exciting, isn't it? So let's go back to basics and talk first and foremost about where we are with esports. What's the marketplace like now? What's happening in the world of esports?
Yeah, so I mean, esports it continues to be mad and crazy and build viewerships which are beyond fathomable understanding. I think now, certainly for 2021, the revenue for esports will roughly represent around $180 million globally. So that's kind of aggregated over lots and lots of people spending at home on games, on consoles. Obviously, new consoles came out recently, as well as just those sort of fringe interests, right? So it's the gamer chair, it's the headset, it's the keyboard, Bex, it's everything that makes the kind of gaming world fun. Something which really stuck out for me is that when we think about viewership now and tournaments and audiences, that audience of kind of very, very casual, relaxed, I'll just pop it on and see what's going on, to I'm extremely enthusiastic and a big fan, that's topping over 470 million global of viewers that are watching this content across Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, depending on what kind of soundbite you want to watch. So between those two kind of very, very big meaty numbers, we find ourselves in a place where esports continues to grow, the passion and enthusiasm and the teams continue to get validated. The entrance of the likes of David Beckham behind Guild Esports is no small thing, you know, and I think a lot of people now are looking at not esports as a conventional way of just engaging with audiences, but this is very much the guerrilla marketing effect to use esports to get to your right customer, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting because we've seen a lot in the news over the course of the pandemic, for instance, that gaming has just gone sky high, because what else have people got to do? You know, sit back and relax and do that. And that's obviously reflected in the marketplace. But have you seen in the last 18 months, like the behavior of gamers kind of change in any way?
Yeah, I think, listen, I think kind of gamers get this bad reputation, which is being locked up in a bedroom that is dark, that don't really talk to people face to face. And unfortunately, and ironically, the last 18 months, we've all been locked up. So we've all sort of had to kind of take on being a bit of a gamer. I know that when we look at how gamers now respond to marketing, it is very difficult to reach them, right? You can't reach them through conventional media. You have to use smart digital marketing approaches. People now will do that to drop it in game, yeah, and they'll be promoting them at their services and benefits there. Also, I've seen that certainly you know, it's no surprise that over the top platforms like Netflix are absolutely seeing record numbers. And the fact that they've now just recently announced that they'll be adding games to the Netflix platform shows you that level of validity within the gaming marketplace and that community. And the community, like I say, it's global, it's diverse, it reaches anybody that's got an internet connection. Yeah. And isn't that a nice place to be now? But yeah, I think as well that a lot of behaviours are starting to change, because I think, following conversation I had recently with a superstar over in the Minecraft team, the level of education that can come as well from games like Minecraft and build on CAD, you know, computer aided design and and leadership qualities, and really seeing a healthy way to infuse gaming into the mainstream education services. It shows you that gaming can be used for lots of different reasons instead of just I turn something on to play a game to kill 10 minutes of my time.
Yeah, and we're already sort of seeing, like, bringing this into the world of NFTs, we're seeing like NFT artists talking about then moving and building their brand into games in itself. So, we're obviously, NFT art is like a massive sort of first step within NFTs that is kind of the most popular and the most, I suppose, tangible way of understanding what an NFT can be. And now it's kind of to create that momentum, they're thinking, how do we link what we do into the world of gaming in a way?
Yeah.
And I think that's really exciting. So is that kind of coming from the other end of it, the esports end of it, is that something that you're seeing as quite a growing trend as well?
Cool. So Axie Infinity are a platform that have created I would say a digital centric NFT, which is specifically focused around having an asset, building those attributes, and also using the secondary market to resell and retail. Those guys have hit over $1 billion in trading.
Wow.
And that's the gamification side. So here's the thing, right? Way back when games were really, really fun. Then what's happened as younger audiences have come through playing Call of Duty, Animal Crossing, FIFA, like insert name here.
Yeah.
They do something really, really similar. They all usually tap their mum and dad on the shoulder. Can you please buy me this digital piece of content, whether that's a skin or a weapon or a particular character, or in Animal Crossing's case, bells. And so mum and dad enter the environment, they transact to buy them the digital currency, which now know that little Susan or little Johnny is in that environment, and they can do with that in-game currency what they wish. Yep. And they're purchasing. So there's two things that happen. The first is they're getting very used to entering a metaverse environment, which is a digital environment specifically representative of that publisher.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The second thing is that they are purchasing an NFT. Now, the way I see that's different in how we're talking about non-fungible tokens and the gamification side is that it is temporary to the life cycle of that game. So if, in FIFA's case, it runs for one season, your NFT is only available to you for one season. But what you cannot do is you cannot resale that item in a secondary market, which you can do with NFTs that are available for you to go and buy for the likes of
like art, NFT arts, things like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So this is very exciting because as young audiences get used to being indoctrinated through transacting in metaverses, why did Visa just buy a Cryptopunk for $150,000 last weekend?
Yeah, exactly. And do you see that as a really positive thing? Because I know within the NFT art community, it's quite divisive. Some people think this is amazing. Some people think it's, it's the worst thing ever. And I've had that from like previous commentary and conversations that I've had within that sphere.
Mm. I think, I mean, it's difficult, right? Because obviously Visa, MasterCard, they reflect the traditional way that we have transacted forever. What they, I think, are recognizing is that the power of the community now that's available, you need to diversify your portfolio from it being simply reflective of traditional currency. I can't remember where, but I know it's in South America, where there's been this agreement now that there will be Bitcoin is accepted as standardized currency, and I'm pretty sure one of the banks over in America now have agreed to take Bitcoin as payment towards mortgages.
Yeah. So let's just quickly break that down because for anyone that doesn't quite understand the future of this technology, right? The bigger, wider opportunity with NFTs is that it's going to cut out the middleman of a lot of things like contracts, mortgages, as you mentioned, legal documents. You might not need that in the future. So the way we transact in maybe 5, 10, 15 years time is going to be completely turned on its head from what we expect to do now. And I think, you mentioned about kids asking mum and dad to buy them skins and stuff like that. for that generation, that older generation, this looks like madness, right? But because
Right.
these kids are going to be native to this concept, what that means is that they, as the future adults, this is going to be like having their right arm. You know, this is exactly where social media was in 2008, I suppose, 2006 to 2008. And us kind of going, it's never going to catch on. Why do people need apps? Why do people need social media? What are you going to do? Now it's things that we're spending 6-7 hours a day on our phones for. It is the norm. And that's where NFTs are going.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree with that more. And I know that, yeah, the generation above us, the older generation, every conversation I have with people around me and my network, they don't understand NFT, and they still don't. But they will talk to me about how their son or how the daughter is asking them about buying a Fortnite skin. And it's because they can't join the dots together.
Yeah.
And it's because it's not clear. Whereas, over the next, what's that runway of when you enter Minecraft or when you're into Fortnite is kind of 8-9 years old. Well, all right, let's give that a runway of 10 years. They're 18, 19. What level of relationship are they going to look to? They're going to look to a Visa or a MasterCard that they would say a sale or just do things in a traditional way. But they're going to look at virtual currency and decentralized autonomous organizations to be able to transact in. Like, they're going to gravitate towards where they feel most comfortable, most confident, and this further validates and gives credibility and verifies the esports and the gaming market, because this is the intersection of entertainment, right? Yeah. That's the bigger play.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've obviously, I suppose you're kind of, again, an early adopter of this and understanding of this because it's part of your job role. But from a personal level,
yeah,
how all into NFTs are you? Like, how are you feeling about this space?
Yeah, so I probably got into researching about the space about sort of 4 or 5 months ago. And the reason why I didn't really transact in the space until a month or two ago is because I wanted to do my own research and understand the space and actually understand really where I think the right level of investment will be. And for me, that's what this play is, right? I think everyone approaches NFTs for different reasons. I massively admire amazing graphic designers and artists because they're creating the amazing stuff that I'm buying. I'm just not that talented. So I'm looking at, who are the Monets, who are the Van Goghs, like who are creating those evergreen pieces which people are always going to look to. And actually, let's think about it bigger. What would antiques look like in a digital environment in 50, 60 years?
Yeah.
Right? When those digital artists aren't available anymore.
Yeah.
So there'll only be a finite amount of pieces that are made. So how involved am I? I am as enthusiastic, I think, about the non-fungible token environment and the fan tokenization side of it. I'm more enthusiastic about that now than I think what the opportunities can be for esports, because esports is standard. There are games that come out, there are perimeters into which those competitions can be played, and there are lots of people that watch and lots of companies want to spend money to use that as a Trojan horse to market. But the NFT environment, this can turn people that don't make a lot of money into millionaires overnight. This can enable commercial transfers from one side of the planet to the other without having to pay some crazy Western Union fees.
Yeah.
Like, the level of opportunity and economic stability this gives to financial institutions and I think economies is crazy. Yeah. I do think there's always going to be the community going to feel very reserved about this is ours and we want to make sure we protect the integrity of this. And when you enter a blue chip into the side door, how much of that integrity is maintained and protected? Like, there's always going to be that battle and concern. But yeah, for me, NFTs are about knowing what's coming out by osmosis, looking at the market leaders, your Beeples, your Boss Logics, the people that are making amazing design work for the likes of Loki, the Sky series, right? Like, and also most recently, Boss Logic did the piece around the Gauntlet arms, which has exploded. Like, there's so many things that NFT can do for lots of people. So it's not just for one type of person. It is diverse. And yeah, I think there's opportunity for everybody. So
Yeah, because
I'm very
we're
excited.
totally seeing that, because we look at, obviously art is a big thing. There was a write up in the Financial Times about fashion and couture pieces moving into the world of NFTs. We've got Top Shots leading the way for like sports NFTs as well. And then you're talking about like the esports thing. The interesting thing I find about esports is, the trajectory of esports. I remember back in the day, like 2017, 2018, that trajectory for 2019 was that it was going to hit these incredible heights, and it was going to become the next big mainstream thing. Now, within its fan zone, yes, it's been incredibly accessible. No, it's not been accepted as an Olympic sport. No, it's not something that we have like a dedicated BBC channel or whatever to that at this stage. It still has that potential, but it's not done the growth commercially as it had originally been predicted. Do you think NFTs, the accessibility that NFTs gives to the world of esports, is that going to change things?
It's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I like big questions.
I think the challenge that esports has is, like you said, that it's always going to compete with sport, right?
Yeah.
By proxy, because of its name, and therefore there'll always be a split community around people that think darts and other controversial, activities might be classed as sports, versus somebody that is putting their blood, sweat, and tears into concentrating for 8-10 hours a day playing a game, is a better or worse sportsman, or therefore gives more or less validity to either side.
Yeah.
So, on a tangent, I saw a fantastic story about a Paralympian medalist who's a professional Valorant player. And that actually is the first time I've seen the conversation be going a different direction. Someone that is a professional sports person that actually is more known for how good they are playing games than how well recognized they are because they're a Paralympian.
Yeah.
So esports is also giving credibility. Now, if you recall, a lot of sport outside of the top of the elite platforms, where there is millions of dollars investment, that casual environment, it's not the same. The grassroots level, you don't get those millions of dollars of investment. You don't get that accessibility to sponsors. And why is that all relevant? Because NFTs break they break those blockers down. They remove those hurdles. You have something like 69 million globally crypto wallets around the world, right?
Yeah.
And there's 330 million people that live in America alone. The opportunity is that we're very early to this space. Gary Vaynerchuk, the social media trailblazer.
Yeah.
What did he do when he saw this space? Well, for him, it was how do I create V friends?
Yeah.
And what can I do outside of creating an image? And how then can I transfer that into that becoming community? So I create an image, people buy, they're part of a community that they can communicate with like-minded people on. And now we move that into another environment, which is flagship events that those people, those attendees, because they own that fan tokenization. So NFTs are bringing people into a bigger community.
Yeah.
And there's differences between how that I think will work and how esports, which again it's dedicated to people that like games. And if you don't like games, you're not going to be wanting to look in that environment or watch that content.
Yeah.
And what I say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? And anybody can like anything for art.
Yeah. And I mean, the audience engagement around this, I mean, I'm just kind of thinking from an esports perspective, if there was an esports enthusiast or even expert, right, like yourself, who's kind of going, I've heard about these NFTs, not sure what the link is just yet, what would be your kind of top tips to start getting into this, to start that osmosis, start moving across into this world from an esports perspective?
Yeah. So I think it's difficult from an esports perspective. I think more from a if I was talking to my gaming community, like the people that work in this industry, for me, I'd be speaking to them about I'd be understanding, identifying what their real interests are. And it isn't a surprise that within the games industry, pop culture is a very, very big driver. And the cross-pollination of that is, I think, the O1 series, which is the anime NFTs, are absolutely exploding in popularity and are seeing an incredible surge of communities wanting to be part of that. It's got a lot to do with the people you're talking to, what their interests are. I'm a big lover of art, but go ahead.
Yeah. Do you think, like, when you talk to your gaming community,
Yeah,
are they like, you know, if we're talking to Joe Blogs down the road, right?
Yeah.
And you go, oh, have you heard about NFT art? And they go, it's just a JPEG or a screenshot, right? They don't get it. And therefore their interest is waned straight away.
Yeah.
Does your gaming community already go, oh yeah, that sounds really interesting to me, I'm up for it? Or is there resistance?
No, there's resistance. So I have this on very, very good merit. And what usually is happening now in or around sort of a publisher or a developer perspective, they're very busy because they're busy making a game, right? Yeah. That's their principal focus. They might have somebody in the business that they've given the responsibility to be, I don't know, let's say a business dev person to maybe look at what's happening in the space. I spoke to a AAA publisher, and they had somebody that was a biz dev that was looking at NFTs, and it's only because he's got a real interest in certain things that he managed to stumble across this. But it wasn't until I spoke to him about, this is what I think this could do for you as a publisher, where our conversation started to change. It wouldn't surprise, it may surprise you about the amount of publishers that have got no interest or are not doing anything with NFTs, specifically because they have their cycle of life is make a game, go and find a publisher, help them market it, get to a community. But imagine if you did it backwards. Imagine if, let's say you built an NFT, you created a community, you made a game, you promoted it, and you've already got the community to do it. Like, why wouldn't you change it?
Yeah, I think that's the thing versus tradition and innovation, right? So, you know, we can look at this again from the art perspective, because that is the most prevalent at the moment in the NFT space. A traditional art gallery, and I have invested in tangible art, you know, that is a big passion and you know, forward thinking investment from my side as well, because obviously there are risks with NFTs. We are really early on in that, so it's good to kind of have both. When I speak to my art advisors, I said, what do you think about NFTs? Are there any on your slate? Have you thought about this with any of your artists? And they're like, it is way, 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 way too early. And I'm like, early is a good thing, right? Who's doing it? Who do I get involved with? And they haven't got the answers yet. And you know why? It's because from their point of view, they have a physical gallery and they have to sell physical products and they have to market those physical products to their physical audience. And that has to be their priority. They, unfortunately, are going to be late to this game because they're not embracing and taking that risk early.
And that's evolution.
Yeah.
Right. And there is no surprise now. If you look at influencers are playing a good part. Snoop Dogg, Marshmello, Logan Paul, KSI, like insert name here. Influencers are doing a good part telling communities, you need to go to this artist, look at that content, because I am. Yeah. And like, unfortunately, people follow people, right? And they are doing that through behavior breeds behavior. And then I will learn about how to get into this environment. And you asked me a question earlier about the how do you get in there. So there's some kind of key things you need to look at first and foremost. Don't buy anything because you want to make a profit. Like, yeah, good advice. If you do that, then you're setting yourself up to get kicked in the teeth, because unfortunately you can't predict the future, right? Yeah. And don't buy anything that you can't afford to lose the money on. That's what they say about loaning people money, right? Yeah. Never loan what you can't afford to lose. Yeah. I think as well, if you're going to enter the environment, and I say environment because it is a big ecosystem. I think if you're going to do that, look at communities. So look at their Discord. Maybe they've got a Reddit. Maybe they've got Twitter. Like, look at how they're speaking with their community and how active they are. But also understand kind of what their roadmap is, and a project that's got. And I'll give you a good example, if I may, if that's all right. Of course, yeah. So Cryptomon was a project that I looked at quite some time ago. I was I was a bit dubious because, again, you've got to do your research. You've got to make sure things are legit. Within the space of a few weeks, they had 10,000 people on their Telegram, which now is, I think it's 3x. I think it's around 30,000 people, if not more, they've got on their Telegram. And that's just, there are channels within that Telegram of, this is general news, this is how you sell, this is how you transact, this is how you buy, our currency. Like, that level of support and love, it's very, very, very rare, because you're dealing often with artists that don't have a big team of people that are doing it themselves because they love it, but they just don't have the infrastructure, or may not be business minded.
Yeah.
You talk about evolution. There are people that have probably made NFT businesses through COVID that may never have been in an office before, because let's look at the lad in the UK that's just created the whale NFTs that now is going to be making £400,000 or dollars at the end of this year.
Yeah.
12 years old.
Yeah.
So it talks to, when we go back to what are those key things you need to look for, community is absolutely imperative.
Yeah.
And I think as well, one of the biggest things that people talk to me about is that when you come into the environment, going through a process through MetaMask, which will often have the know your customer process, which is you submitting your ID, showing them who you are. Effectively, you're not using this to, you're not using this for any other reason other than to come in and be an honest and valuable part of the community. The biggest question I got asked is, but how do you get your money back? Right?
Yeah.
So that's and that makes people nervous. It isn't. I don't think it's a coincidence that I've been hassled so many times on the likes of Discord with very, very generic but samey, spammy messages, which is, congratulations, you've won some Bitcoin, go to this platform. And actually what they try and do, and this is really, really clever, but it's something that's worthwhile mentioning, is they try and get you to enter a password username that you can remember. And then the idea is, when you get to the end part of this process, turns out you've got to pay them some Bitcoin to get your Bitcoin back, which sounds a little bit like, other scams we've heard. But Bex, the bigger play for them, if you naively enter a password and username used for anything else, you can't delete your information. Yeah. Okay. So that's one of those things to absolutely be careful of. But back to the point I was talking about, to really be able to transact in a marketplace and then get that money back, you need to be familiar with Binance or Gemini. You need to be able to understand that takes a level of registration as well. So it's almost like you got to tick the box from MetaMask or other platform you're going to use, depending on where you want to go and transact. And then you've got to have the right retail partner to be able to get your Ether or your Bitcoin or whatever currency it is.
So you're talking about Binance, you're talking about there's Cryptomat, there's the one I use, Coinbase. And I use this Coinbase as well, and all similar animals. And actually, these are things, right? There's information you've said to me today that I didn't know, and this is because it's a learning process. And now, if you have lots of people that enter this space that don't know about the scams, I've mentioned one of the things that I've seen happen. There's different behaviours that people are now taking to. There are scams around. If you're part of channels, they try and really pump up the price of particular artworks, so then everyone buys, and then they pull the rug from your feet. Did you see the piece around the esports team that I wanted to? So the idea was that there was an esports team that were coming in, and they were really they're going to pump up a virtual coin. I think the coin was called something like Save the Children. Forgive me if there's a similar name for anything else. And they're an reputable esports team that encourage their fans to do that, right? So this is esports meets NFT, or sorry, esports meets virtual currency. Their fan base came in, they invested, and then the rug got pulled from the project. So, being cautious as well is super, super valuable. And that whole, don't invest what you can't afford to lose, but do make friends with people and actually just be willing to learn. What I've found about this space, actually, talking about making friends, people are incredibly generous. You know, they'll go out of their way to help you, like on Discord. Being very new to Discord, I didn't even know how to change my profile pic because I was so overwhelmed with all of the stuff that someone from the Junkyard Dogs community said to me. Now that you've purchased a Junkyard Dogs, I'll help you change your avatar, because that in itself is kind of, and I have spoken with one of the founders of Junkyard Dogs, like the level of authority that you get by changing, you know, by what you represent. Like if you have a Cryptopunks or you have Bored Apes avatar, it's because you bought it, you know, and therefore you're in this kind of clique up there. It's really interesting to see status symbols of this. But what I mean is that there's the one person on that community said, hey, I'll jump on a DM with you, and literally handheld me through this process. And I was like, that is so nice, because not all of us have been following crypto for 5-10 years and don't understand the terminology, don't understand the processes, don't know what Binance is, doesn't know, you know, and all of this stuff people are playing catch up on. So what's quite nice at this early stage in NFTs is that the community is kind of going, let's all work together to make this what we hope this is going to be in the future. So I will help you. And there's a lot of generosity there, which I'm really, really pleased to see.
You're right. There's a lot of cross-pollination of actually, if you're going to enter that environment and you're gonna buy a piece of art, you're going to buy something which you really like. It's in the interest as well of like the teams to really kind of evolve you to be a level of brand ambassador to help support, but also help support them. And people that are creating this stuff, you know, they may not be community managers, they may not be really good with social media, they may just be super great at making content, or super great at making pieces of amazing art. So I think I'd be surprised if there aren't more gaming publishers that have a broader strategy to take NFT seriously. You know, case in point, things like Fortnight absolutely jump out to me. Like, why isn't there a marketplace where you can go, you can transact, you can also have control of secondary market, and you can earn? Because you know, Fortnite's got like a registered player base of 350 million global players around the world. They're making a lot of money, right? But that's the thing about NFTs. It puts more control back into people and gives them the opportunity to make money too. So I think, like I say, everyone's got different strategies for this, and I think it's smart to have a strategy too. And for me, it's certainly about playing the long game. One of the pieces that I acquired that I will absolutely sit on is by a virtual influencer. So Lil Michaela is a virtual influencer. I think she's got about 3 million subs. And the team behind Lil Michaela had created a really smart level of slow drip feed, engage with community, and then get them to be able to respond and interact with some of the content they were putting out. And then they'd be selecting winners and people appropriately. And I think that kind of takes on the idea of virtual influencers driving people's opinion forward and creating communities, but also their teams be able to leverage these opinions and this artwork that's generated. And so I see virtual influencers playing a bigger role, certainly in the next sort of 5 to 10 years. Because again, with virtual influencers, you can absolutely moderate and manage what they say. You can't do that with real influencers, and sometimes things happen that are outside your control. And what do brands get nervous about most? It's not being able to moderate everything that's being discussed and what points of view are. It affects stock pricing, it affects brand opinion. And I definitely think augmented reality. And what I say is that there are pieces that are being made that people can look at, they can swipe, that are items of clothing. They don't even need to order. A stitch doesn't need to be picked up. Nothing needs to be wasted. You know, you can look at what you want through AR and then you can order. So I see there's going to be this big sort of transitional shift through AR really integrating into the day-to-day sort of shopping experience too. But yeah, there's bags of great things happening.
I mean, the next milestone, you kind of touched upon it, but in terms of the metaverse, just generally, like what the big milestones that you're like, this long-term vision and what you're kind of touching upon now of what that's consumer behavior versus what do we think is gonna change in the metaverse?
I think I would like to see tokenization become something which is accepted in society. So let's say, for instance, you buy a digital piece of art, you can then go into a shop and let's say you can show that art on a device.
Yep.
You will then be able to get discounts, benefits, exclusive community benefits.
Yeah, interesting.
Like if you
Does that
want,
not make the world a little bit more cliquey in a way? Right, you're in with this club because you bought this, therefore I'm going to give you a discount. It's like being part of a massive members club.
yeah, I think everybody kind of gravitates towards things they're interested in, right? So case in point, the mirror behind you, like if there's 1,000 people that all own that same mirror, because they all have a particular love for it, and there's a community you can be part of, you may or may not want to enter that community, but at least you've got something in common with people. And if COVID's demonstrated anything, and it shows the importance of friendship and building networks and being part of things. You know, the biggest challenge bricks and mortar stores have had is giving people a reason to walk into a bricks and mortar store when Amazon's on your doorstep and on your phone. So there'll need to be an evolution on how retail think about, you know, the smart ways that they can harness that.
But it is interesting that actually Amazon have announced that they are going to be creating some department stores themselves, because what they've seen post-pandemic is that people are missing that nostalgia of being able to walk into a store. So we're in a really interesting time, you know, it's not black and white. There's this very much a gray area. It's like digital, traditional, you know, online, offline. There's got to be a happy medium there. It's not one or the other at the moment. It may be in the future, but right now it's not.
I don't think Tim Berners-Lee made the World Wide Web because he had a particular, you know, idea on how it all sort of turn out. And I know that Zuckerberg, you know, he didn't create social media. He just came along and did it better, because pre him there was MySpace, there was like, I'm showing my age now, but there were other things that were available. You know, I do believe that people want to be, you know, they want to have an experience, because you see, you can only shop online for so long, but to be out and see people and build those connections, you've got to be outside to do that, to do it in a meaningful way, to read social cues, to know what, you know, interactions like. And we already, when you look at user adoption when it comes to COVID and schools rolling out tablets for children, they did that because we absolutely needed the technology at that point. But that also does something. It stops that human interaction and those people skills and those things which you can't teach, which you need to learn, and you only do that in a real society environment. So yeah, I agree with you. I do think that the balance is going to be made, and it'll have to be made. But you know, member exclusive benefits, being more part of an environment, being part of a community. I'd read recently that someone had gone into a place, and I think they were wearing one of their Bored Ape Yacht Club t-shirts, and then someone was like, so I'm a Bored Ape as well, and then they just started that conversation specifically because they had that one thing in common. You know, you could see marriages happening because one Bored Ape finds another Bored Ape, like before they've actually met each other. So
and that doesn't just have to happen on Twitter. that can happen in real life. Really interesting, Warren. Thank you. Before we wrap this up, I just want to ask, well, firstly, if you've got any final thoughts or things that you want to just sort of mention and talk about off the top of your head about this space, but also I would just like to see what your gameplay is for the next month, year, and maybe 5 years within this, and where you see yourself.
So I think thoughts wise, I'm excited. My nephews are badgering me because they're hearing about NFTs. Friends of theirs at school at the age of 17 are now making things and starting to release them into the networks with the support of, you know, people that are age appropriate, so they can do that. So they're looking to me for more advice and understanding, as well as more friends are kind of reaching out to me and just saying, I've heard of this, what is it? Can you give me some advice and sort of some guidance on it? So I think the short term is that, you know, where and when people want to have a chat, I love to be able to meet, network, speak to people and see if I can help. I think that the midterm, certainly, that I can see is that there'll be much bigger brands that will look at, and when I say brands, sorry, I mean publishers and developers that are going to be looking at how can we, where is there a smart play where NFT can meet esport, How can there be valuable winning assets that can be given to esports teams and players? Can they be NFTs that we can be awarding people a specific number? Team OG are an esports team, and they've actually got an NFT that's on the Nifty Gateway.
Okay.
So there's absolutely commonality there. I won't give away all the plays because I'm far too cryptic in this environment. Sorry.
You got to keep it for your own sort of tight-knit community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But also, I'm only human. I don't know everything, and it's really helpful learning from other people and seeing what they're doing in the space, because it's helping me sort of shape my idea. And you know what? If something can happen, which means I pay off my house early, then what's wrong with that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Warren, brilliant. Listen, thank you so much. This is not going to be the last time that we're going to be talking on Nifty World about the world of esports and obviously NFTs as well. I'd love to have you back on in the very near future, but I really, really appreciate your time. So thank you so much for this interview today. Well, there you have it, an absolutely fascinating chat with our esports expert, Warren. What an exciting future we have for both NFTs and esports. I hope you enjoyed it and got a lot out of it and learned so much. I certainly did. Now, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and if you want to tweet me any questions that you've got, obviously you can do that on Twitter, but you can also leave a comment right here. So until next time, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out all the other brilliant videos on this channel as well, and I'll see you very soon.